Hi everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is the latest Manchester United news where we'll be discussing what Erik ten Hag must do and deliver in his first season at Manchester United. We'll be talking about the expectations that Manchester United have given to Erik ten Hag in their interview with him and what they expect in their first year and what they will accept. We're also going to be talking about what his budget is likely to be. We'll also be talking about what priority positions they've got. And we'll also be talking about the things that Erik ten Hag has to do straight away when he starts at Manchester United. So lots to get into. And I think, most importantly, the fact that this is not a free ride. I think there was something I said this afternoon on Twitter that got misconstrued completely that we must talk about. But one thing we must talk about as well is real life. And if you are watching this live, you'll probably be very, very aware in the last hour that we've had some very sad news coming through in relation to Cristiano Ronaldo and his family. You may well remember back in November, it was announced that he was expecting twins with his, I think is his wife or his partner, I'm not so sure. But in the last hour, they've announced that one of those, the son, there was a girl, a daughter and a son, to be expected, has sadly passed away. So, I mean, look, you don't need to be a Manchester United fan. You just have to be someone with compassion to send your thoughts to Cristiano and his family on what is a very difficult thing. I don't know whether many of you've come into contact with this before. I think people can think that it's... the loss of a child in any circumstances is devastating. I had somebody who was a colleague of mine a few years ago who this happened to, and there was a conversation in a bar about how, you know, it's not because the child hasn't been born in some way, it's a lesser thing. It's definitely not. It's not. There is no difference to the parents who lose a child before it's born compared to the ones that have it afterwards. This is really a big thing that's happened to Cristiano and his family. I know people will want to talk about things like playing matches against Liverpool and things like that. It's really not relevant. It's not. This is a hard thing for anybody to have to go through. And I think at this time, all we can do as a community, and I see the wider world is doing it as well, is just say it's very, very sad. And our thoughts are with Cristiano and his family at this time. And it's nice to see that many people in the chat really get that. So look, thanks everyone in the chat. And obviously there wasn't going to be a situation where we weren't going to talk about it. And I appreciate that some people may not have even seen the news either. So very, very sad news. And but the show goes on, and we will carry on, and we will talk about what the intention of the show was going to be. And as I said, in relation to the match tomorrow against Liverpool, if Cristiano wants to play, Cristiano wants to play. If he doesn't want to play, no one's going to really have any issue with that, are they? I mean, in some ways, it's probably best that he doesn't play, because family becomes before football. But yeah, very, very sad news. Anyway, let's talk about Ten Hag and what he must do at Manchester United. I think this afternoon there was a tweet I put out. I want to read it just to give a bit of context as to where we're going to go with this show, because we're going to be talking about what Ten Hag must do and what the club want from Ten Hag in his first season. So I put this tweet out after I'd been live this afternoon reacting to Fabrizio Romano saying, "Here we go, Erik ten Hag." And I said this, I said, demanding top 4 or a trophy in season 1 is completely unhelpful for Ten Hag. Season 1 is about putting smiles and trust back in the fan base, and the best way to do that is through football, is through better football. Absolutely respect it, totally understand it. Some people didn't like that. They thought it was a silly comment to make. We're Manchester United and we should have expectations and we should have standards, and no manager should come in and get a free ride, and why didn't David Moyes get that, and why didn't Ollie get that? And well, I mean, they probably did in a sense, but I think that it's absolutely correct to say that Manchester United's expectation from Erik ten Hag is in the first season to get top 4. the board expects top 4 next season. So whatever you think as a fan, whatever I think as a fan, whatever anybody else thinks, Manchester United will expect top 4 next season. Whether that's realistic or fair, it doesn't really matter, because that's what Manchester United's board will expect. We are not going to achieve top 4 this year by the looks of it. And if we don't, we've never been outside the top 4 2 years in a row, i.e. we've never not qualified for the Champions League 2 years in a row. And when you do that, there are financial ramifications for Manchester United. And basically, Erik Ten Hag will be under no illusion that his one job this season from the board, because we've got expectations as fans, he's got expectations as a manager, but I don't think anybody's really thought that Man United haven't just invited Erik Ten Hag round for a chat about the manager's job and said, give us some ideas. Manchester United is still one of the biggest clubs in the world, and Manchester United has its expectations, whether it's Pochettino or Erik Ten Hag. Their expectation is that we will be in the top 4 next season, or we will be in the Champions League next season, whether that's through the Europa League or through the top 4. Now, what are your thoughts about that? My thoughts on that are that that might not be achievable. I agree with fans that say we should be demanding top 4 next season, but I also think that it's a pressure and a demand that may not actually be that helpful at the start of next season, because we don't know how good Newcastle are going to be next year. We don't know how good Arsenal, Spurs, Aston Villa, Leicester, we don't know how good those teams that will probably compete for 4th place, because Chelsea, Liverpool and Man City will be away from us. We don't know what tournament we're going to be in either. We don't know that we're going to be in the Europa League. So it's very difficult for us to say, oh, we should be in the top 4 next season. But I actually think we can do it, but I just think it's wrong that we put expectations on it. But have no doubt, Manchester United, from their side, they want 4th place next season as a minimum, because that's where Manchester United should be. And that will be the expectation that Erik Ten Hag has on his shoulders from the start of the season, and that's what he will be expecting from those Manchester United players as well. And to be honest with you, is it a pressure on Erik Ten Hag? Well, if I'm a Man United player, I'm expecting we're finishing in the top 4 as well, because I want to play in the Champions League. So it's about playing better football, definitely in season 1. And it is about everybody having a common goal and wanting that. And the players need to want that as well, because surely they don't want to be out of the Champions League for 2 years. So I think that will definitely be an expectation from United. Well, it is an expectation from United. It's just whether it's realistic for Erik Ten Hag to deliver that. And I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are in the chat on that one. Let's go to super chat here. Mark, thoughts on Maguire saying that stopping Liverpool winning the quadruple shouldn't be extra motivation? Says Connor252. I'm not aware that Harry Maguire's spoken. I thought he was just putting clips of long passes out. I didn't know he'd said anything, so I don't know how true that is, but let us know. As long as United remain in Europe for the next few seasons while we rebuild, says Dylan Wilson, the board have to have a good summer then. Can't demand anything with a squad of losers, says Mark Callahan. And that's a great point by Mark, because United's board, in the interview with Erik Ten Hag, have expressed their desire to be back in the Champions League next summer. And that's what they expect from their manager. And that was portrayed to Pochettino, to Ten Hag, and every other person that was spoken to about the job. They want somebody that believes they can get Manchester United back into the Champions League within season 1 if we're out of it. And that was part of the job. And basically, if Erik Ten Hag had sat there and said, I don't think I can do it, I think the job's too big for me, they wouldn't have gone for him. So Erik Ten Hag is fully aware of that. But as Mark said there, Manchester United have to deliver things for that to happen. And basically, what, as we understand it, is that Erik Ten Hag said, I can get this team into the top 4 next season, but I will need this amount of control and this amount of budget. And on the transfer budget, we expect it to be somewhere between 150 and 200 million pound spend. Obviously, that will include some sales, but the spend is expected to be between 150 and 200 million pounds for Manchester United this summer. Because Manchester United are fully aware of 2 things. One, they have to back a new manager, a new start. They've got to finance that. They have to do that. They may not want to do it, but they have to do that. And 2, they're also fully aware there's a lot of clubs in the Premier League that are going to spend money this summer. This will be a massive spend summer. There is no Euros, there is no World Cup. It's the first proper summer we've had post all these COVID lockdowns, etc. There's a lot of clubs who want to do a lot of things. Newcastle want to spend, Villa want to spend, Everton, if they stay up, will want to spend. And then Arsenal want a striker in the midfield. Spurs, if they keep Conte, will want to spend. As well as the usual suspects of Chelsea, Liverpool and Man City will be competing each other to try and challenge for the title. So it's going to be a very competitive summer. And Manchester United fully expect and know that they've got to spend on that. So, I think that's another thing, isn't it? What do you think about Edson Alvarez, CDM from Ajax, as an answer to the midfield problem, says Tom. I think it's a dangerous game to just think, let's go and get loads of Ajax players. Donny van der Beek is basically an Ajax player, and I would say personally, I would only buy one Ajax player. If it's Timber, it's Timber. If it's Anthony, it's Anthony. If it's Alvarez, it's Alvarez. I wouldn't go and get two. I think that's we're already getting all of Ajax's coaching staff. We've already got Donny van der Beek, who's played under Erik ten Hag. I don't think we need two signings from Ajax, as well as their manager and the coaching setup. I would be saying to Erik ten Hag, and this has been said to Erik ten Hag, and Erik ten Hag has an answer to this. What would you like to bring to Manchester United? Think about this. If you were interviewing Erik ten Hag for the job a month ago or whenever it happened, what questions would you ask? One of the questions I would be is, what sort of football do you think you can get us playing here? Where do you see? What do you think you can do with this club in the next 2 years? And the best question I would ask is, tell me some players that you think would improve this team. And that has been discussed. And I don't think Erik ten Hag would have done himself any favours if he'd said to Man United, well, I want the job. I'm going to get you playing really good football. I think within 2 years I can win you a trophy. And the sort of players I want to bring in, wow, Alvarez from Ajax in the midfield, Timber from Ajax at centre-back. I'd love a right winger like Anthony from Ajax. And I tell you what, as a centre forward, I think Sebastian Haller from Ajax. So he can't do that. I think that the players that Erik ten Hag will have mentioned, and I don't know who they are, I know what positions they are. They will be the Nkunkus, they will be the Tchouaménis, they will be players like this. Mark, thank you for all your work and your team put in for the fans. We need players who are capable of to fight instead of complain, says Matt. Thank you very much, Matt. LS says, Erik ten Hag needs time, but I want to see some pride from this players and stop Liverpool from being able to tie the league wins, says Elias. And made a list comparing the players we signed and we could have signed in the past 9 years and the price difference. Where can I mail it to you, says Anish. That's footballmedia@gmail.com. Be interesting. I'll bring it into a show. Yeah, that sounds interesting. So I think with... what I really want to do is just capture for a couple of minutes, because this sort of thing really interests me. What do you think are the... Tommy, thank you very much for... I'm laughing about a chat here. Eamon says 20 minutes, Mark. I don't think he's refreshed his thing. I think he's sat there waiting for it to start, because he's just said 20 minutes. And I've looked at the time and it's 8:20, and he probably thinks... I've not started for 20 minutes, but we have started. Welcome to Members Club, Tommy. Thanks for joining. If you are a member, please do check out the exclusive content we've got for you. What do you think about, and I'm going to talk to you now about the positions that United are looking for and the priorities positions that I've been told that they were looking for. So we'll do that in a moment. But what do you think? I really just want to capture, and I can't do it on a poll. What do you consider? And this is probably one of the most exciting things I've said in relation to Ten Hag at all, because I really want to grab your quality. What do you want expect from United in year one? I just want to know where we're at as a fan base, because I don't know whether some people know what's his name on Twitter, Mike LUHG. Divisive, yes. Has some very strong opinions, yes. Too far at times, yes. But on the other hand, I think he's never short of an opinion. And when I said that this afternoon, he was like, no manager at Man United should be getting a free ride. We've got to deliver something in the first season. And I respect that. I've got no problem with saying that. I'm not going to say somebody's wrong if they expect that. So if we just as we start reading some of your comments, I mean, Jordan says an exciting style of play. Yes, tick in the box. But if I said to you, I'd seen a couple of people on social media today saying that top 4 is a minimum, or sack him in season 1, quite extreme, to people saying, well, as long as I see progression in the way that we're playing, I'll take 5th or 6th. So there are differing levels. Top 4 in a deep cup run, says Iron. Attacking football, says Chide. Stability and identity, says Adel. Be happy for effort for our players to run their socks off, says Granite. Good football, believe we have a chance against any team, says C. I mean, I think some of these are great, so just keep them coming in, because I think they are hitting the brief in the sense that I agree with that. I think that I want to go into a game thinking we can win. Not expecting to win, but thinking we can win. We're going to Liverpool tomorrow, and I'm absolutely convinced we're not going to win. When we play Man City at the moment, I'm absolutely convinced we're not going to win. And that doesn't mean we won't get a result at Anfield tomorrow. But what I'm saying is we're going into it expecting to lose. I want to start going into those games, expecting us to get a result, and that's a very big difference from where we are. JT says top 4. Mason says has to be more intensity. We've been way too lethargic. Deadwood players need to be sold. We'll talk about that in a minute, Geordie. Mark, with possible no Ronaldo and no Cavani, who do you think will play up front? We'll talk about that at the end, Sean, because it's a bit of a sensitive. Well, it's a very sensitive topic. Clear style of play, rid of at least half the Deadwood, says Kellen. And Ten Hag needs to root out the poison in the team first. Clean slates won't count as players will down tools again, says Daniel. A starting lineup we can identify with, says Mario. A new captain, says John. And I'd love the Carabao Cup, says Blood King. We need to see a team effort, not individuals, says Robert. Make people scared to come to Old Trafford, says Louis Garrett. A foresight of the season to come and plan in place. I expect a style and an identity, says Craigie Boy. Top 4 would be enough, says Ola. And better football with Europa League qualification, says Karsh. And we've got... we need to rebuild the players' confidence and build up the core players of the team and clear up some deadwood, says Mario. And what about actual positioning? Do you expect a Carabao Cup? Do you expect 4th place? What do you think in relation? So let me just say this then. So if I say to you next season the football's going to be a lot better, you're going to have more belief, you're going to have more of a relationship with the players, and we're going to be making strides in the right direction. What would you expect that in relation to league position and cups? What would you expect? If I said to you, look, you will get better football, you will get players that you are more in tune with, you will take more pride in your club, they will take more pride in you. What would you expect from that? Because I suppose I could do a poll on that one. Let me just run one. Well, no. Just write it in the chat. You can't really do it on a poll. It's not really going to be transferable. But I would say, for me, I would agree with a lot of what people are saying. But I would say that next season, I would love. Well, no, I will say this then. I don't want to put expectations on, because I don't feel that that's fair to do that when he's not even been unveiled. This Ronaldo news is heartbreaking. Such a terrible thing to experience, says Zachary. Yeah, definitely. But I think with regards to the expectations next season, if we do get better football and we do have more pride in the players that are playing for Manchester United, and they do show more intensity and more direction, I look at the quality of players that we've got playing in a better style of football, and I do think 4th place will be achievable. And I do think deep cup runs will be achievable. I would say this: if we can get improvement, which I really believe we can, if we can buy well in the summer, which I really believe we can, and these players are in tune with the manager, determined and focused, I think next season it's achievable to say we get 4th place or we win the Europa League. And I think one of those two things is achievable if he can get this team playing, which I think he can. So, look, I don't want to set that expectation there and say we must achieve this as a minimum, and that's what I was trying to say this afternoon. I don't want to go into next season like I came into this season, saying we've got to be in a title race and we've got to get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and that's all I wanted at the start of the season. That's what I said. If we're in a title race and we hit the quarterfinals of the Champions League, anything else is a bonus. Well, we didn't hit either of those. But I think at the start of the next season, I would say, if we can get playing some good football, we can get some good players in, and they are all in tune and working hard, then I think we will get 4th place or win the Europa League. And I think this is something that people don't realise, is that we can't, as a fan base and as a club, we cannot keep putting expectations at the start of the season when we haven't got a team that's representative of what Man United is. If you think back at the start of the season when we're talking about, and even Ollie was talking about being in a title race, maybe winning a cup, we've never had an identifiable style of football that's exciting or attacking. And yet we've spoken about going deep in cups and being in title races in April. But we've not had a good style of football. If we can deliver a good style of football, then success will come with that. There's not many teams that play great football and win nothing. And people will say, well, look at Bielsa at Leeds. But was it great football? It was entertaining football. But it was entertaining partly because you didn't know whether Leeds were going to win 4-2 or Leeds were going to get beat 6-2. The priority must be to sift the team and rebuild. That will probably mean a mediocre season, but a vision, playing style, says Sam. And I think we have a FA or League Cup in us next season. If we're in the conference, we could win that, says Reddy. And I'd be happy for 4th, but 5th in progress and identity, football spirit and freshness is stepping in the right direction, says Michael Neal. And I think that absolutely nails the brief as well. I think if we can get this team playing well, and they can start to show us, the fans and everybody else, that they're capable of building over the next 2-3 years, then I think that we're going to nestle in somewhere between 4th and 5th. And maybe a good cup run. And I think that is where we're looking at. And I think that is about as fair. And I think it covers as many different things as it needs to cover. And what I don't agree with is people coming into the season blindly and saying, well, we've got to get top 4. If he doesn't get top 4, he's got to get the sack. I think that sort of pressure is wrong. But I do agree there has to be better football. There has to be more consistency. There has to be more belief. There has to be more identity. But I guarantee if we do deliver those things, we will get 4th place anyway, which in season 1 is good. And I'm the first person to say that is not where Manchester United should be. But we absolutely cannot expect to be in a title race next year. That's just ridiculous. So, that's where we are. And as an added positive to that, before we talk about the positions that United are going to prioritise this summer, let's not forget, you've still got Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best elite sportsmen there's ever been. You've still got David De Gea, one of the best goalkeepers in the league this season. He's saved so many goals and he will do that again next year for you. You've still got Rafael Varane if we can keep him fit. I still believe Luke Shaw's a decent enough left back. He may not be the long-term solution, but in the short term, I still believe Luke Shaw can be a decent left back. You've got Bruno Fernandes, who again, not had the best of the season, but can be a very good player. You've got Jadon Sancho, who I think in an Ajax system would be very, very good. You've got Donny van der Beek, who's going to come back, who knows this system. You've got 4 or 5 new signings to come into the system. And that's before you even start saying, could he get something out of Rashford again? Can he improve people like Fred, McTominay, Wan-Bissaka? So there is a lot of potential with all those things. The players we've already got that can get better, the signings that we've got, some of the players that are going to come back from loan, and before you even get to the players that you think probably aren't good enough, but you never know what he can do. I stopped the favouritism and defined style of play, plus a cup run is good for me, says Brandon. And I think Brandon makes a great point as well. Let's not hide away from the fact that there's favouritism in this football club, and there has been for 3 years. We can all name the names, and there's probably about 6 or 7 that have had preferential treatment over the last 2 years. And there's probably 5 or 6 players that have been treated badly over the last couple of years. Eric Bailly, Donny van der Beek, to name 2. Tellez at times. There are others. So we need to get rid of that. We cannot have this favouritism in there. And I think that's a great point as well. Get the Tasmanian Devil, Fred and Scooby-Doo out of the bloody midfield, says Adam James. And, well, look, I actually think Fred's not a bad player to keep. I wouldn't give him a new contract, but I don't think Fred's a bad player to have around on the bench. I think he's a good player. And maybe Scott McTominay in year 1 as well. But longer term, I'm not so sure. But we will see. We will see. You never know. I think there will be shocks, and I'm quite encouraged that there will be shocks at some point. That there will be players that can definitely deliver. But there will be players that fall by the wayside. And Erik ten Hag must be given the freedom. What United are trying to do, and the eyes are on them, not the fans, not the players. What United are trying to do, and they may be doing it kicking and screaming. There may be people in the board who don't want it, but what they're trying to do, and Rangnick hinted at it in his press conference today, they're trying to replicate what Klopp's done at Liverpool. That is what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring a person in who plays a good brand of football, who's good at developing players, not only young players, but also signing players, and they want to give them control to build the future of Manchester United. Now, that's not something United have done for 10 years, so it's going to be very interesting to see how that happens. Do you think Ten Hag could bring Ajax's right back with him? He's out of contract in the summer. He's off to Bayern Munich, Mark. I'm rubbish at pronouncing his name, but it begins with an M. Yeah, he's off to Bayern Munich. Even Jesus himself can't make Maguire play well. I'm sure in his heart he wants to do good for the club. Whatever he's doing is going wrong, like Pogba incident. Erik Ten Hag and Ralph need to sell or bench him, says Ronald Jacob. Well, talking about sell or bench him, so I was told this a couple of days ago, and I spoke to somebody this afternoon who had quite a busy afternoon, in fact, hint hint, and we were talking about the transfer priorities of Manchester United. And when I put the two lists together, there's quite a few similarities. So United's priority signing this summer is a striker. Don't panic. Don't panic. That was my reaction as well. Mark, would you do a Bruno Matic two-way with Pogba? Says Shane. That sounds completely wrong. And do you think Ranić will play a bigger role now that Ten Hag is the manager, says Dougie? Come back to that. It's a good point. So the priority position for Manchester United is a striker this summer. Now, there's a reason for this. The striker position is a priority because they're struggling to get the one that they want. And if they get the one that they want, he will have to be the priority because he will be the most expensive. We are going to get a centre defensive midfielder, and Manchester United know they've got to get a centre defensive midfielder. So just be careful here. Like Charlie says midfield, and this was my reaction as well. We are getting a centre defensive midfielder. But the reason the striker is the priority is because it's probably going to be the most expensive if they get the one that they want. And on top of that, it's the most difficult one to get because there's so much competition for a striker at the moment from so many different clubs. So the priority is the one they're working on the most. And they are working on a few deals, but the striker is the priority for Manchester United this summer because there's so much competition for strikers. They know they've got to get one, and they're desperate to get the one that they want. And obviously the one that they want is Darwin Núñez, who is going to cost a lot of money. So therefore, that's the priority deal for United at the moment. We are going to get a holding midfielder. So it's not that we're just going to buy a striker. It's just the striker position is the priority one. And when you work your head around it, I actually agree. I understand it. Because for me, the midfield is the one we need to get. That's the priority. But we are going to get that. The priority is the one that they need to get because it's the hardest one. And the striker is the hardest one to do. So the striker is the priority for United at the moment. That priority is Darwin Núñez. Whether we can get him or not, very, very difficult. So we'll see what happens with that. The second priority signing, and they will get one, is a centre defensive midfielder. So striker, CDM, they're the priority positions for Manchester United. Third priority is a centre-back. They desperately want a centre-back. They've been speaking to Akanji for a long time. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Rudiger is a player they would love to get, but they're not very confident they can get him. And obviously Timber's been mentioned as well. Anything you want to know about Timber, just watch the video if you remember. Very good video on him, comparing him to Maguire, but really delving into what he's all about and the style of play. And you know, the amount of passes he plays as a centre-back compared to our centre-backs is ridiculous. So yeah, centre-back is the third priority. Fourth priority is actually a wide player, an attacking wide player, not a striker. So Nkunku could fall into this category. Anthony could fall into this category. Other people could fall into that category. And if they're going to buy a fifth player, it will be another midfielder. So that's United's sort of priorities. Striker, CDM, centre-back, wide attacker, and then another midfielder if they can. So 5 players. There's no intention to go and get a fullback, which is a shame. But look, if we can get 5 players, 2 midfielders, a wide player, a striker and a centre-back, it'd be a very good summer. It'd be a very good starting point for Erik Ten Hag. Mark, other than Donny and Sancho, what out-of-form player has a chance to turn things around next year under Ten Hag? I think that's a great question by Oz. What do people think in the chat? And also Michael Neal says, I'd be happy for 4th but 5th, and progress on identity, football spirit and freshness is stepping in the right direction. I don't know whether we'd read that before. Gaza says, I'm hearing strong whispers that Ten Hag has identified Max Aarons, says Gaza. The only fullback I'm aware that Manchester United have inquired about is the lad at Forest. but it's only an inquiry. We may well have inquired with Max Aarons as well, but it's I don't think Manchester United are looking at a fullback at all. I think the fullback thing is frustrating because I think Lamptey, it's Spence, isn't it, at Forest? I think that there are some really good right backs out there that United should be looking at, especially at a time when Liverpool have got Trent, Man City aren't looking at a fullback, Chelsea don't need a fullback. We could basically go and get one of these lads, but I feel that the right back position is probably a next summer deal, because let's be honest, United probably need 7 or 8 signings. We certainly need 2 midfielders, we need a striker, we need another wide player, we need a centre back. You're right, we do need a full back. So I just don't think United will go for a full back this summer. Priorities are good as long as they don't spend all window trying to get their number 1 target, says Ren. This is going to be a really, really interesting transfer window, you know. It really is going to be a very interesting transfer window because I can't remember one like it. It's so important. There's so many factors to it. We don't know whether we're in the Europa League or the Champions League, which obviously is a big difference. Your transfer targets are very different if you're in the Europa League compared to the Champions League. We've got a brand new manager. We know we're going to have to spend big. And we also, even the club admit, we need at least 4 signings, maybe 5. And then massive summer. We're going to spend. We know we need at least 4 signings. And we've got a new manager. And we don't know what tournament we're in Europe. All those things make it very challenging anyway. And then on top of that, every position, nobody really knows who we're going to get. The striker, we need a striker. Who's it going to be? If we don't get Darwin Núñez, who's it going to be? Yeah, we need a midfielder. Well, we ain't going to get Declan Rice. Who's it going to be then? Centre back. Who's it going to be? So it's going to be a really interesting summer, and it's going to be a really interesting transfer window. And you're right. We can't wait till summer going, well, we need a centre back, we need a striker. We've got to know who we want, and we've got to go and get them. And that's the thing as well. We may not have a very good squad at the moment, and we may be about to lose a lot of players, and we may end up having to stick with players that we don't really want to be here. But if we get these signings wrong, what if we buy the wrong people and they're not good enough? That's not great. That's not great at all. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Somebody's just said that there's some Harry Maguire quotes. I'll find and try and find them. But what I was going to say is players that I think could improve under Erik ten Hag. I think with regards to Erik ten Hag, I think that the players are going to be... Donny van der Beek's a very obvious one. I think that Eric Bailly will leave, so I don't think we need to think about that. I think that Bruno Fernandes has to improve. There's no doubt about that. That maybe Fred or McTominay could improve under that as well. So look, there's definitely going to be opportunities for people to improve because they'll stay at the club. We have got the Harry Maguire quotes now. Let me just read them for you. Let me see. Okay. So these are from Sky. The fans have stuck with us throughout this season. We know they turn up in their numbers everywhere they go. They've been amazing, and it's been such a difficult season. It's a game that we've got to look forward to, and we know that we'll need to play our best to get something from the game, and that's what we've got to prepare for. For us to go to Anfield and perform well and get 3 points, it would be a huge moment for us to give to the fans. That's the big motivation for us players. That was such a low point when we lost 5-0, the lowest point of the season and one of the lowest points of my career. I'm sure the rest of the lads felt that way as well. There's nothing wrong with what he's saying, is it? But it's just not a captain, is it? Let's be honest, he's just not a captain. Everything he says is just paint by numbers, isn't it? It's just, you can almost do it in... It's like IQ says it's blah blah blah. You can almost hear him doing it in his accent. It's just not. It's not Roy Keane, is it? It's not even an Aldi version. It's I can't massively say. It's just not inspiring. I think problem with Harry is that no one trusts him on the pitch. I don't think the players trust him on the pitch, and he's just. I don't think most people would pick him as a defender, let alone have him leading the team. So I think that's the problem he's got. Here we go, says Simon Gales. Thank you very much there for that. Haven't won at Anfield in 7 years. Who was it who said that? Well, they haven't lost at Anfield this season. Ahmad will thrive under Ten Hag, mark my words, says Vacation. Look, I think those sort of players, the Hannibal Mabrys, the Ahmads, they're going to be interesting as younger players. But what he's got to do very, very quickly, and where we've gone wrong this season, is that the core of players that you need to rely on, you couldn't rely on. And I don't include Ronaldo and De Gea in that, because they're almost different ends of the problem, and it's in the heart and in the middle of the team where it's gone wrong. Ronaldo will score you goals at this end if you can get the ball to him, and we failed that. But when we have, he has scored big goals. De Gea will save you points and goals when you're in trouble, but he can't stop everything. So you've got somebody who can win your games, but we've not got him enough of the ball, and we've got someone who can save your games, but he's too busy. He can't save everything. Where it's gone wrong with United is that the core of the team, the centre-backs, the midfield, the attacking element, they've failed. They've failed this season. Whether it's Bruno, whether it's Rashford, whether it's the midfield of Pogba, McTominay, Fred, whether it's the centre-backs of Varane and Maguire and Lindelof, they failed collectively. Now, Varane's failed because of injury. Cavani's failed because of injury. Rashford's failed because of form. Bruno's failed because of form. Maguire, Lindelof have had issues this season, and McTominay and Fred are that. That is the reason United's seasons fell apart this year. It's not because of De Gea and it's not because of Ronaldo. It's the core of the team that's in between them. What De Gea, what Van Dijk, what Ten Hag has got to do, he has got to get a core of the team that can deliver for him. Because next season, if he's got De Gea and Ronaldo, nothing will change. Ronaldo will score you goals if you provide him with the chances, and De Gea will save you goals if he concedes chances. But he must have a core in between that he can rely on, and that's where he needs to be most active. And look, Van der Beek coming back will improve that. Bruno doing his job properly will improve that. Varane not being as injured will improve that. And then 3 or 4 players in there as well. Ronaldo's son passed away, says Lunch. Yeah, we have spoken about it. Very sad news, and I know a lot of people are very traumatised and sad about it. And it's nice that we have the community tonight, that people can just chat away. And I've seen a lot of the hearts and love for Ronaldo, and it's nice to be able to see it in the background as the show has gone on. We did mention it at the start of the show. If you have tuned in a little bit late, Cristiano Ronaldo and his family were expecting twins. I think it was announced last November, a little boy and a little girl, and unfortunately it's been announced this evening that the little boy has passed away. The little girl is, as we understand, okay. I don't know the complexities of I don't know when the due date was, but the sad news is that the little boy has passed away, and obviously outpourings of support and grief for Ronaldo and his family on what is a very, very, very difficult time. What I feel we need more than anything is competition for places. No one does this team lack desire to win, but they seem to comfortable knowing that they will get picked week in, week out, says Daniel Petterson. I mean, look, if everything goes to plan with Manchester United next season, we will get a bounce. Ollie got a bounce. I mean, Ranić only got a bounce for half an hour. It was rubbish, wasn't it? But we will get a bounce because these players will have to. This will have to improve, and I think the players will realise that. But it's going to be very, very interesting how it pans out. But he must avoid the pitfalls as well. The other thing I wanted to talk about as well is that, and again, we'll bring you into this. What are the things that you think that Ten Hag needs to avoid in his first season, but in his first few weeks, in his first few days, in his first few months? And I think there's a few things that I would say. One of them's already been highlighted by yourselves. He's got to avoid the favouritism. He can't walk into that club and fall into the trap that I feel that Rangnick has fell into as well. We knew what it was under Ollie. It was this clique situation where certain players in that team clearly have got the ear of the coaches. Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes. They're four that spring to mind that always seem to get picked. Under Ollie, always seem to get picked no matter what. Didn't ever really seem to get subbed off. Maguire, McTominay, Bruno and Rashford were favourites. They never seemed to get subbed off. And when Rangnick came in, I was like, well, he'll be wide awake to that because he's not an inexperienced coach like Ollie. And yet, it has continued. McTominay pretty much got picked every game. And we could do with him against Liverpool. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but he was one of the favourites. If you look at how little game time Donny van de Beek got and how many bad games McTominay's had, he was one of the favourites. Rashford was one of the favourites. Bruno, another one Van de Beek could have played there. Never got dropped, one of the favourites. And Maguire, Eric Bailly, Lindelof, even Phil Jones deserved chances, never got dropped. So it's all right to say, well, Ollie had his favourites, but to be fair, it continued under Ralf Rangnick. Erik Ten Hag cannot do that. The minute, if we start next season and he picks McTominay and Rashford and Maguire and Bruno, that doesn't mean he's got favourites. They might play and they might play well. But if they perform mediocre next season and he still keeps picking them, that sort of thing is a pitfall. And that's what I want to talk about for the next few minutes. What are the pitfalls that... Because Erik Ten Hag's not going to come in and get everything right. But what he has to do is he has to be very different. And if you look at what Richard Arnold's done compared to Ed Woodward, well, he's appointed Erik Ten Hag as the manager. Woodward would have gone on with Pochettino. So straight away, you can't accuse Richard Arnold of doing the same things that Ed Woodward would do. And Erik Ten Hag has got to be very careful that he doesn't do that as well. He can't come in and go and keep picking mediocre players that have always been picked. So that's one thing highlighted by yourselves that he's got to avoid. Because if he doesn't, he will not lose the fans, but fans will be like, oh God, it's the same old thing. There's weird things going on at that club. I'm excited about Ethan Laird, who got good opportunity with Swansea, but okay season now. Let's see how it pans out, says Jay. Hi Mark, sorry if it's been covered already, but will we be keeping Martial or trying to move him on? Not sure who else would pay his wages, says Mr. Dan United. And that's one of the pitfalls as well. That's the second pitfall for me. We've spoken about favouritism. The second pitfall for me is what he does with the players that aren't happy. Because there will be players that are brought into the club and we're all excited about those. And there will be young players that are given opportunities and we're all excited about those. And there will be players that we're not so sure about at the moment, but they turn it around and we're excited about those. But there will also be players like we've had for the last 3 or 4 years who don't get picked, don't perform well, and become players that are leaking information, that are negative. And he's got to be very careful about those. And you could put Anthony Martial into that equation as an example. If he comes back to United, are we going to keep him because we've got a new manager? Let's see what happens. Well, if we're not going to use him and he's not part of the plan, he becomes disgruntled and he becomes a problem. So that is a pitfall that we have to try and avoid as well. You've got to try and avoid that. If Ten Hag gets rid of Maguire, McTominay and Fred, the functional core of the team, replace them with proper players, that's half the rebuild once, as Annabov. And he has to stick to his footballing principles despite media noise. Pep and Klopp had mediocre starts, as Mitchell Neal. Yes, and I'm glad about that one as well. One of the other things he's got to do is avoid impressing the media. Avoid impressing the media, avoid impressing ex-players. His one job is to have the courage and conviction to do what he thinks is right. He cannot be taking notes of what Gary Neville's saying, or what Paul Scholes is saying, or what Graham Souness is saying, or what Manchester Evening News is saying. Those things have to become irrelevant. And I think Ralf Rangnick's been very good at that. There's been no touch point with Ralf Rangnick from any ex-player, from the media, which is probably why they've been a bit off with him. But I've never felt there was a relationship with Ralf Rangnick and any of that bullshit. There was with Ollie. It was almost like, oh, tell Gary this and that. And it's like, he needs to avoid all of that. Because the minute, it's the same as the fans. The minute you start answering the fans and you start answering ex-pros, you lose focus on what you're all about, and that's a pitfall as well. So yeah, I'd agree with that. And he has to stick to his footballing principles. Exactly, that's what Michael was saying as well. And the other pitfalls are quite simply just the job itself. Like, the Manchester United can consume you. It really can. And he's got to be big enough to understand that it's football. It's football. And Manchester United isn't Ajax. Manchester United isn't Arsenal. Manchester United is its own thing. But don't let it swallow you up, because Manchester United isn't Manchester United. If I could have a word with Erik ten Hag, and I'm sure many people would say the same, I'd say, look, biggest club in the world, fantastic fans, but we're not Man United as a football club anymore. We're not a team that challenges for title. We're not a big club on the pitch. So don't get consumed by how big this club is. We've got a huge fan base. We've got huge potential. And we'll always be one of the biggest clubs in the world. But we're not that on the pitch. Don't feel the pressure of the club on the pitch, because you are starting from a position which is lower than we've ever been. So don't let the pressure bother you. Because ultimately, as long as you go in and do the things that we've already discussed tonight, if you can come in and get people playing properly and playing excited, then that momentum will be with you from the fans and the club anyway. Don't come into this club thinking, oh, you're not good enough to do it or anything like that. He's got to believe that he can do it. We have to respect if he chooses not to play people, says Sam. When's Ten Hag coming, says Leo? Well, July. But there are pitfalls, and we've got to be eyes open to them, and he's got to be eyes open to them as well. He needs the right people around him. And realistically, as long as he's signing the right contract, it should be fine. He's got to have the freedom to sell. He's got to have the freedom to buy. He's got to have the freedom to say, this isn't what we need and this is why. And if he can get all those things, I think there's a real chance of success. The biggest pitfall of all, though, and I've saved the best till last, the biggest pitfall is, and the scariest pitfall, is that bloody playing squad. Because we've seen it. Jordan Morgan, thank you, welcome to the Members Club. We've seen, going back to Jose Mourinho, what these players are capable of. They can down tools and they can stick the knife in. And when that happens, you're screwed. We've seen it with Ollie. They loved Ollie. They still down tools at the start of the season. We've seen it with Ranić. They never even picked the tools up again. They couldn't be arsed. That is the biggest pitfall of all for Erik ten Hag. The Glazers' incompetence, the board could be the same. But if those players, they're his biggest pitfall, because they will bury a manager. We've seen it. They won't turn up for Leicester at home. They won't turn up for Everton away. They are a bunch of bottlers with a weak mentality. And his first job is to disintegrate that. Doesn't mean sell them all. He can't sell them all. But he's got to get, and it goes back to that thing, you've got Ronaldo, you've got De Gea, and then you've got this big problem in between. He's got to get a core of players, 6 or 7 first-team players, very quickly, that love him, love the way he wants to play, and will do anything for him. Look at what Klopp's got at Liverpool. Look at what Tuchel's got at Chelsea. Look at what Pep's got at Man City. And they've got probably 25, 30 players willing to do it. At Man United, you've got no players are willing to do it. Not enough, anyway. So his biggest pitfall is he's got to get a group of players that love him ASAP. And I think in the first season, 6 or 7 first-team players, and then build that out. And I think it's going to be very interesting. Should be announcing Ten Hag tomorrow to boost players before the game. However, will be on Wednesday after defeat, says Neil Crude. I will answer that. If you've been busy today, you've not seen a lot of the content we've put out. So here we go from Fabrizio Romano, came out at about 4:30 today, and he said that it won't be announced today or tomorrow officially. I don't know how the official announcement will happen anyway. When we have an official announcement for a signing, they do pictures, they do an interview. We're not going to get that with Erik ten Hag because they've got a game on Saturday afternoon, Ajax. They're still in a title race. They're not going to let their manager fly over to Manchester, do a load of interviews and do a load of photos. That's not going to happen. So I don't know how an official announcement happens. I presume it's a statement from Manchester United to say that Erik ten Hag will be our manager next year on the website. that's what I think will happen, and that could happen on Wednesday. But it won't be an interview with Erik ten Hag. It will be a released statement to say that I'm very proud to have the job. My focus is on Ajax for now, and I think that's will happen. I don't think it will be. I don't think it will be released anytime officially until I don't put it this way. I don't think Erik ten Hag will do his first official questions and answers and everything like that until 1st of July. But as Danny Atkins says, I think we will get a joint statement that Ajax are happy. I mean, I don't remember what happened with Pep, but they did it with Pep, didn't they? Pellegrini was the Man City manager. They did it with Pep when he was at Bayern Munich. He was going to leave, and that's going to happen. So yeah. This time tomorrow night we will be at half time between Liverpool and Manchester United. It's quite a daunting thought, isn't it? Actually, this time tomorrow night we will be that. I do want to talk about Ronaldo just quickly at the end of the show. We've spoken about it a few times tonight. If you're not aware, some very sad news that was released by Ronaldo earlier on to say that one of his upcoming I'm just trying to how to phrase it because it's very difficult. So he was expecting twins, a boy and a girl, and very sadly the boy has passed away. So that has been released by Ronaldo and his family today. Obviously, our thoughts are with Ronaldo and his family. Devastatingly sad news, and yeah, there aren't really words, are there? Anybody who's been close to anything like that, or you don't even need to. I think any human being with compassion can feel the pain of what that. Can only imagine what that would feel like, and it is very, very sad. Obviously, I don't think it's insensitive. I really don't think it's insensitive. I think people just when something is traumatic, people can get angry with people. I've seen a few people in the chat saying, "Do you think he'll play tomorrow?" And people have said it's not the time, and this, that, and the other. Well, no, it probably isn't the time, but you can understand why some people might ask it. It's not the time because football is football and family is family, and that match tomorrow against Liverpool should quite rightly be the last thing on Cristiano Ronaldo's mind. We've seen it in football before where people have lost people and gone and played. This is a very unique situation. It's not a family member who's, in their 70s who's passed away. It's the loss of a child. And it is, even though it wasn't born, it's exactly the same. And the honest answer is, I don't think anybody really, apart from thinking, how would we line up tomorrow? I don't think anybody really, nobody has really anything other than thoughts and sadness for Ronaldo and his family. So if he plays tomorrow, I would be very surprised. It's not for us to say whether he should or he shouldn't. I'm 100% sure that the coaches and the football club will be 100% behind any decision that Cristiano makes. It may well be that he doesn't play for another month. He might not play for another couple of weeks. You just don't know. I mean, look, Liverpool fans, Manchester United fans, it's a big rivalry. There's been things that have happened between Man United and Liverpool fans in the past, distasteful things. I don't think there would be anything like that going on. I can't comment on whether he will play tomorrow or not. I would, if I'm predicting, I don't think he will play tomorrow. I think it's a very, very hard headspace to be in to play a game of football, and I don't think anyone would begrudge him for not playing. So I don't expect him to play tomorrow. That doesn't mean he won't play tomorrow, and I don't expect him to play tomorrow because I don't want him to play tomorrow. I don't. If he's not able to play, then no Man United. I think every single Man United fan would say, take as long as you need. don't play tomorrow. It's like if you were in work and you phoned up and told your boss what had happened, the first thing you would expect your boss to say is, take as long as you need, don't come into work tomorrow, just stay with your family, and, you know, I can't begin to understand how you feel. And I think that's what Manchester United will say. It's down to Cristiano whether he wants to play or not, and nobody can tell him he can't play if he wants to play. But I'm not expecting him to play tomorrow, and I don't think that I don't think it's a relevant comment at all. Of course, we're going to comment on it because that's what the world's like. But I would say don't expect him to play tomorrow, and then if he does, he does. But as I said, if I was his boss, and I think if anyone was his boss, and you'd just say, look, absolutely devastated for you. It's horrible news. Take as long as you need. I don't expect to see you until whenever. And yeah, give him all the support you can. So yeah, we're not thinking about Liverpool tomorrow in that situation. We can think about Liverpool tomorrow because we haven't gone through what he's going through, and the world goes on. It's sad but true. And Man United can go tomorrow and do what they need to do, hopefully. But I think in relation to Cristiano, I would just do what many people have done, which is thoughts and prayers, and then we'll see what happens with that one, really. But yeah, life comes first, doesn't it? It is difficult. Yeah, it is difficult. Do you think United should go all out defence and play out for a draw tomorrow, says Haj? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because I was listening to what Jurgen Klopp said this afternoon, and he was like, United will be obsessed with getting top four. They're going to be full of energy. It's going to be a very difficult game for us. And I was like, either he's talking out his arse or he really doesn't understand how badly we've played this season. I mean, look, Jurgen's absolutely spot on. We should be full of energy. We should be up for it. It is a cup final for us to try and get top four. I mean, all those things are correct. But the sad thing is, we won't approach the game like that. Man United won't approach the game like that. But Jurgen Klopp is right. It's a massive game for us. It's a cup final for us. If we get 3 points at Anfield, we probably would get top four because everyone would go, oh my God. Even the players would go, we can do anything. So, look, yeah, we should be focused. We should be energetic. We should be up for it tomorrow. But I don't expect it. I can't see us doing it. And maybe, I like Steve says, Klopp's trolling. I don't think he's trolling. I think he's just trying to motivate his players. Because one thing he knows is that Anfield crowd will be up for it. The players will be up for it. They're trying to win a quadruple. They're trying to win a title. They're against their biggest rivals. He's just stirring them up so that from minute one they're up for it. And the thing about Liverpool reminds me of some of the teams that Sir Alex had. When you spot a wounded animal and it's a rival, you don't go easy on it, and they won't go easy on us, and he doesn't want to go easy on us because goal difference could still be really important. So they'll go for us big time tomorrow. What we need to do is, and I've not even done the research on this. If I was some of these players tonight, I'd be looking at Wikipedia, BBC. I'd be looking at all of our Liverpool's home games this season, and I'd be looking at all the scores, and I'd be looking at when the goals went in, and I'd be looking at the chances, and I'd be looking at their tempo in the first 20 minutes, and I'd be trying to learn something, and I'd be trying to talk to my teammates about it, and I'd go, look, when Brighton came here, they didn't concede until the 34th minute. You know, look at Liverpool and how they do it. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. It's been really nice to spend it with you this evening in very difficult circumstances, and I hope it's been useful for some of you as well. And yes, the one thing that I always really like about what we have as a community is that we are together so regularly on so many things, and when you have that sort of a community and a relationship, there are times when you really experience the harsh realities of life and existence, really. I remember the night that COVID hit, and I was like, I don't really know what the future's going to be, but we'll keep doing the content and we'll keep doing the community thing. A year ago, we had the Super League. We we've had this Ronaldo thing. I remember anyone? Well, hopefully a lot of you remember Kipster, the lad on Twitter who had the heart condition, and you know, I don't remember exactly what date that was last year, but that was horrible. Realising when he'd had his heart surgery and he'd not woken up. You know, that we do really love this football club, and we really do care. But underlying under all of that, we actually have a community of human beings, and we experience things together. And it's not always Ten Hag gets the job or Ollie gets the sack. It's quite often real moments that we share as well, and it is real because we're live, we're chatting away, and we're all chatting with each other, and it's helpful and it's useful, and it's real, and that's the main thing. It's real. There's real events that we share, and as I said, it's really sad tonight for one of our players, Cristiano, and his family. And we'll play tomorrow without him. If he's not playing, we'll play without him. And you know, if anything, it should inspire the players to even more togetherness and Manchester United. That's what we're all about. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Take care, everyone. Hope you have a good evening, day, afternoon, whatever you're doing. And obviously, we'll be back in the morning with the 10 o'clock show, and then tomorrow night, big game against Liverpool. So thanks everyone for watching, and speak to you all in a bit.